Changing the player speed by only 10 to 20% can make the entire level stop working, because player speed is the one of most fundamental parameters in game design. Hi, it's Seta here, and in this video I will show you how the player speed affects psychology, level design, gameplay, and what you should pay attention to when designing your own games. Let's get started. Player speed is not a technical parameter you set at the end of production. It is the foundation of the entire level design. It determines the size of your level, element placement, gameplay rhythm, and the emotion you will be able to create. So let's start with how the player speed affects the game experience. First, the faster the player moves, the less time they have to react. This is easiest to see in the platformer games. If the character moves at 5 meters per second, the player has exactly 1 second to react. If we double the speed, the player only has half a second, and the same jump suddenly feels much harder even though the geometry did not change. And this difference in reaction time creates completely different feeling during gameplay. Second, speed builds emotion. In games like Resident Evil or Silent Hill, player speed is around 3 meters per second. That is slow, but it is a deliberate choice because this pace builds tension. On the other hand, in games like Call of Duty, the player moves at around 6 to 7 meters per second, and this speed creates completely different emotion and adds more dynamism and intensity. Third, changing speed affects how the players feel. For example, in games like Need for Speed, at the beginning you get a fast car for a short time, so you can feel the speed and the adrenaline. Then this car is taken away and you have to race with a slower car. The same track that used to be exciting because of the car speed now feels boring. So you want to get back that feeling you had with the faster car. This alone motivates the player to keep playing and get better car. The same things happens when the character gets injured and moves slower. The player knows they are in the worst situation because they feel it through the controls. They start to play more carefully and try to recover their health. In reality, only the speed has changed, but the player's feelings are completely different. Fourth, speed changes how the player perceives space. This is a trap that most beginner level designers fall into. You build the corridor that is 15 meters long in the editor and it's feel fine. The room is 8 by 8 meters and it's look good. You start the game and suddenly the corridors take 3 seconds to run through and the room takes 2. So why does this happen? Because in the editor you judge space visually. In the game, the player experiences space through time. So remember this. You don't design levels in meters, you design them in seconds. Fifth, player speed affects word readability and what the player can actually notice. The faster the character moves, the less information the player processes consciously. Environment details, layout start to blur into the background. On the other hand, at the slower pace, the player builds a mental map of the level. They remember key locations, shortcuts, and room layouts. And with fast movement, that does not happen. The player moves more by instinct, reacts to stimuli, but remembers the level much worse. Now that we understand how the speed affects how the player experiences the world, we can move on to how it affects level design. The most important thing you need to remember is that the player speed must be decided before you start designing levels. There is no exception. If you first build a level for a 1 speed and then change it later, you will have to redesign everything. So if you ever felt that the level does not work, even though it looks good, it is very possible that the problem was not the level itself, but the player speed. To make it easier for you, here are example speed for different type of games. But remember, these are only suggestions. Always build a simple test level and check which speed fits your project best. Another important thing is environment detail. Here the rule is simple. The faster the player moves, the fewer details you should place in that part of the scene, because the player will not notice them anyway. There is no point in spending time on details in place where the players run through everything in 1 second. Save detail work for area when the pace slows down. It is also important to remember that the player does not react to the rough speed value written in the code, but to the speed they feel. That is why different speeds needs different camera settings. With slow movement, you can use a narrower field of view because the player has time to look at details. With fast movement, you need a wider field of view so the player can see threat earlier. The same applies to camera distance. The faster the character moves, the farther the camera should be. This gives the player a better view of the situation and more time to react. You also need to remember that the speed affects how they place enemies, obstacles, and key elements. If the player moves at 7 meters per second and you place an enemy or obstacles 3 meters behind a corner, you are giving the player almost no time to react. This can break the flow of the game and become frustrating. One more important thing. Most games do not have one speed, but two. Walking and sprinting, and you need to decide how much faster sprint is. Is it only for short bursts, or the player can use it all the time? If your game has sprint, design your level around sprint, not walking. If the player can sprint, they will sprint for about 90% of the time. If you design levels for walking, the game will feel too slow. And make sure to test with other people. You know the level by heart. A new player knows nothing. Give someone a level and just watch. Do they hit obstacles? Do they get bored? Do they die without knowing why? This will tell you everything. As you can see, player speed is the one of those parameters that is very easy to ignore at the start of the project. That is why you should set the speed early, test it properly, and design everything else around it, not the other way around. And that's all for this video. If this was helpful, leave the thumbs up. And if you want to learn more, check out other video. And until next time, see ya.